Tonight on the finish line, ball game's out. Martin Ukpai's in for him, and we are going to talk about whether or not the Miami Dolphins are the favorites in the AFC East after today's big move by the Buffalo Bills. Also, we will talk about Kendall Lamm and what he called us enjoying his last ride. And then we will also talk about some NFL execs having major concerns about the Miami Dolphins. We got a lot to talk about as it's the finish line. Do me the favor, smash the like button, subscribe if you are new. Let's get into this.
You have got to be kidding me.
Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown.
And he will score. Field on the near side, that open. Touchdown. The run from Tua Tagovailoa.
Touchdown.
He's going deep. He's got it for a touchdown. He's in.
Beautiful day to be a Dolphins fan. Let's go!
All right, huddle up, huddle up. We're gonna crank these engines up on one. All right, wait 80, set. Drivers, start your engines.
This is the finish line.
I coached some great offensive linemen in the past. Larry Little, Dwight Stevenson, Jim Langer, all Hall of Famers, and Richmond Webb belongs to that same group.
Here are your hosts, legendary Miami Dolphins left tackle Richmond Webb, Reason, and Mr. Ballgame.
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason. We are back here for another one as we welcome y'all in to the finish line. Today, I'm joined by the legendary Richmond Webb, and replacing the triple OG, Mr. Ballgame, is the homie man. He's the man. Gentlemen, yay, man. The Dolphins have not only showed interest in OBJ, it's now come out. They've shown interest in Tyler Boyd. They've told two starting veteran offensive guards, as well as a part-time starting veteran guard, to sit pat and wait to see how the draft plays out, and they'll circle back around. The Miami Dolphins are looking to upgrade weapons, are looking to upgrade the offensive line. And hey, as other teams are making moves, the Dolphins look to make moves. How are you guys feeling as we are only about 3 weeks, about 22 days away from day one of the NFL draft? Richmond?
Hey, I'm doing good. Good evening, Reason, Martin, and to the fence side, the NFL family. How is everybody doing? Glad to be back on again. Yeah, man, that's awesome. I think we talked about Odell Beckham last week.
Yeah,
and the interest in him. We also covered the situation with some of the veteran offensive linemen. Just hold tight. We're gonna holler at you after the draft. So it just shows that the Dolphins are serious about upgrading certain areas that we kind of got hurt in during the season or at different times. And nobody has to tell you how injuries impact the season or the outcome of certain things, and I think they realize that. And I think everyone knows we truly got something special It's just you got to be able to weather the storm, and those injuries, offensively and defensively, cost us. So typically, you don't go right back in a storm when you come out of it. So I don't expect us to have what we did last year. It was pretty impactful, this and that. But man, that is definitely good to hear that, they are being really aggressive. They're being aggressive, but they're moving in silence. They kind of stand up on the radar. So I like that. But it shows that, hey, not only do the fans want to win, but when you see your front office making moves like this, I think as a fan, it should give you good vibes to say, okay, they're truly bought in and they want to win just like we do. And I don't think every fan base can say that. So to be a part of the Dolphins fan base and to see what they're trying to do and make happen, I think it should make everyone feel good. But just glad to be back on the show, and appreciate my brother Martin stepping in for Mr. Ball Game while it's track season, this and that. I thought he might bring Gina with him, but I guess not. So how you doing, Mr. Martin? I was looking for Gina.
Hey, I thought you meant Gino, like Gino Smith, man, because I do know him from way back when. But hey, Gina, man, I wish I had a teacher Kendall in this month. But I'll tell you what, man. Get him going, Richmond. But I'll tell you what, man. Richmond pretty much hit it on the head, man. When you really look at this Miami Dolphins off season, and he said we're pretty much moving in a respectable silence. We're not as quiet as, like, per se, the Dallas Cowboys when it comes to our off season thus far, but we've been quiet enough to where nobody's really mentioning, like, the impactful moves that we made, which is good. That's a good sign. That means we're not necessarily trying to put too much attention on us like how we used to be, when it comes to the spotlight. Hence, HBO coming in for the Hard Knocks. That was strictly based on the spotlight the Miami Dolphins was generating. But now that they understand what the magnitude is and what it takes to be, what it takes to be, essentially, I love what we're doing. I love the fact that we're going into the draft, not panicking. We have a specific, I want to say, position in the draft where it's all about BPA. And that's what I want. And hence, you're looking at what we're talking about when we talk about, offensive linemen coming back, and then we have an offensive lineman on layaway, not necessarily a layaway, but like guys that respect the organization and saying to themselves, let the draft pass by, and then let's see where the chips fall. Man, we're in a good spot, man. And I just love where we're at right now. And more than likely, man, in McDaniel we trust. Mike McDaniel, man, he's still the head of this, and Chris Greer is always gonna be side by side with him. So we're gonna see how this goes, man. But I like where we're at right now for sure.
I want to shout out everyone, including Rhino Sith. He had a $50 donation. It means a lot because yesterday, guys, I've dropped three big boards, and two of them have been demonetized, including yesterday's. XOS Digital Sports coming through and just hitting me for the all 22 and using the collegiate all 22. So I want to say I appreciate all of you guys for supporting the channel and the donations. It means a lot, especially on videos like that where I put a lot of work in, and a company like that comes through and takes all the ad revenue. So speaking of film breakdowns, I just want to get this on wax and clarity here first. I know my experience coming up, Martin, and we'll get to Richmond right after you. I know you played quarterback at Florida Atlantic.
Agricultural,
yeah.
Mechanical.
Yeah. So you played. Yeah, my bad. Sorry. So you played QB at FAMU against. We talked about this. You went against the Miami Hurricanes and such. Your experience coming up through high school and through college, all right. what was it in terms of, you know where I'm going with this, with film break sessions and the intensity of them? Because there was a debate over the last week, and where I stand is my experience growing up. We don't have to get into the specifics of it, but my experience coming up was skill position players like quarterbacks, linebackers, and defensive backs. They had much more intense film sessions, including some of those taking them home for homework, as opposed to say offensive linemen who basically just had to look at two levels, had to look at tendencies, as Richmond has discussed, didn't really have to worry about coverages unless you have slide protection or whatever the case may be. Was that your same experience coming up? Would you say that, quarterback, defensive back, and linebacker, for example, were much more intense film studiers than, say, offensive linemen, from your experience at least?
No, that's a good point. Again, when it comes to the quarterback position, it doesn't matter if it's, Pop Warner, Little League, flag football in middle school, junior varsity, red shirt, when you're a scout team player, and even up to when you're playing on national television. The quarterback position, man, it's a lot that entails when it comes to film study. You have it. It's no different than watering a plant. You have to study film as a quarterback, and because that's the case, the moment you stop studying film or slow down the occurrency of studying film, you do begin to lack and you lag when it comes to the split decisions that need to be made when the bullets are starting to fly. So when it comes to quarterback, man, you have to study. There's no way around it. That is the blood life of the quarterback position. But obviously, when it comes to other positions, the middle linebacker, they talk about all the way back in the 70s and 60s, like Willie Lanier, the middle linebacker for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think he was like the first black middle linebacker in the NFL from the AFL. Remember the American football? What was it? The AFL, American Football League, versus the NFL, the National Football League, back in the 60s before the merger. He was the first black middle linebacker to really star at that position, and because he started that position, that's when like overall brain trust of NFL organizations started to change when it comes to how do you view the middle of the field: center, quarterback, middle linebacker, free safety. So all of those positions down the middle of the field, you have to study what goes on from sideline to sideline and from line of scrimmage to the end zone. So trust me when I say every one of those positions, man, there's no escaping the necessity, and the bloodline study. And
so let's put it in simpler terms, because we're getting a long-winded answer without actually getting the answer here. Okay.
I'll be going in, bro.
Hold on. Quarterback, linebacker, DB, offensive line. Rank it in film watching. Rank it in order.
Quarterback is 1, linebacker is 2, defensive back is 3.
And then you'd have offensive line 4.
Offensive line 4. Yeah, I would say. Okay. Well. Let me press pause on that. Quarterback 1, linebacker 2, offensive line as a unit 3, defensive back 4. Okay. And if we're talking about positions, I will put quarterback 1, linebacker 2, cornerback 3, center 4, and safety 5.
So there you go. Safety is the reason why you weight it down, and center is the reason why you even have them ranked that high, not necessarily guards and tackles. Correct? That's
you gotta have the center to look at both sides of the foot.
He's got a whole bunch of stuff he's got to know. Okay, cool. So, but if someone told you the offensive line unit watched the most film on their team, your eyebrows would raise and probably say, well, you must not have that much success, right? So, if your offensive line is out here watching more film than quarterbacks, we got an issue here. Richmond, I know I got your take on it, and you've already said this publicly. I mean, for you at Texas A&M and in Miami, for you, it was about, other than when, how many Bruce Smiths and Reggie Whites are you going to really face, right? So for you, it was more about you heard the play call and you knew what your assignment was off the play call. Can you talk about a little bit more about, because, from everything you've told me, you weren't a film junkie or film nerd when you were at Texas A&M or when you were at, and what would you say? Would you say the same thing that Martin said, like cornerbacks and centers and linebackers and QBs were, the most, film intense guys that you were around in terms of units?
Yeah, I think I think the difference sometimes with college and professional football is in college it just depends on what conference you're in, but you have maybe.
Well, you're in the cream of the crop, brother. You were in the cream of the crop.
Well, now, but we had some really good teams, but it was a couple of games that you knew that you were going to win. You scheduled 2 or 3 games that you're going to win. They're just coming in to get the money to support their athletic program because they're not on the same level as you. So you understand that. But, once you get to the NFL, it's a different beast. And you're right, you have like the Bruce Smiths and this and that. But I think for linemen, or for me, what became more important is the alignment. Is he lining up the exact same distance for me every time? Is this foot back? Is that foot back? Is this hand? Because a lot of times you pick up on tendencies. You got to do that. But as far as film study overall, I agree. Quarterbacks, we used to watch the tight copy. If we watch the wide copy, that's what we used to call it, where you can see everybody. I didn't get nothing out of that because it would be from the side view.
Yeah. The sideline, what he's talking about, guys, the sideline is the wide copy. The tight copy is the end zone view. That's what he's talking about.
And I need to see between end zone and end zone. I can see everything develop, but it's normally from the defensive end to the interior defensive tackles. And like I said before, normally if it was a slide protection or something, we would have to worry about a defensive back. Other than that, we had our certain rules, but mainly we had what was inside that inside box. That's typically what we block most of the time. And the only exception was that, and we had rules, is just so like if the free safety and the strong side safety walked up in the A gap, where you got to collapse down to block those guys, and then the running backs or whoever already know where you fan out and cut those guys. But for the most part, yeah, they watch a lot more. It's a lot more developing. And I always say the quarterback, because a lot of times what I've noticed, even with just playing with different guys, if you play the quarterback position, and I'll give you a perfect example. Ryan Tannehill was a quarterback at A&M, then they moved him to receiver, then they moved him back. But he was athletic enough to move to receiver. The good thing, if you can see how everything develops from the quarterback perspective, when you move to like a wide receiver, it's easy because you already know how to read the coverages, and you know where to do to get open, and it's just a different level. So and even in high schools, they got the 7-on-7 teams. They don't have no big man, for linemen. You might go for technique, but it's just. It is what it is. So, it ain't no shot at nobody or nothing like that. It's just.
It is what it is.
What it is.
Yeah. No, you talk about receivers. Receivers got to worry about linemen, defenders dropping into the flats off the line. They got to worry about linebackers over the middle. Then they got to worry about the DBs and safeties. Let's talk about linebackers and corners. Corners got to know when to trigger and run defense. Sometimes you're going to blitz them off the line. Plus, they got to know the responsibilities in terms of their coverage responsibilities. They got to know every level of their opposing offense. You look at a quarterback, they got to know all 3 levels of the defense. Right? Like that's just, and it's not simplified it, but offensive linemen, it comes more in a box, the first 2 levels of the box, right? Like that's how you kind of view it. So there was just this debate going on, and there was just absolute nonsense being spewed about, it was just absolute ridiculousness being spewed of people just, backed up into a corner and coming out and saying nonsense to try and save face. And I just wanted to get clarity from you so we can all agree that linemen watch film, but they don't watch it intensely as these other positions that need to know all the levels of their opposing of their opposition, basically, right?
Yeah,
so
we don't have to know all the levels. No,
I mean, Mark Lillibridge has an article from like 2012 about it, where he talks about how intensely, because you remember Mark Lillibridge, right? Richmond, he played linebacker, right? And he talked about how intensely certain units had to watch film, and he talked about offensive linemen. He said, they watch film, but they don't have to watch it as intensely as as including linebacker, what he was talking about. So I just wanted to get verification from someone who played at FAMU and someone who played at Texas A&M and Miami Dolphins, because it don't get any higher than that. So I appreciate you guys for verifying, what I was saying. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. People just argue for the sake of arguing, bro. I don't know why. So, but let's get into it, because the story of today is obviously the AFC East and where we're at in the AFC East. So let's start it off chronologically. Let's start it off with a couple days ago that seems to have, people talked about it, but they didn't really talk about it. All right. And what do I mean by that? This is what I mean by that. So let's cover this first. Let's start off with this. I don't know if you two saw this. That's why. There a couple of days ago, Robert Griffin put out, is Stefon Diggs essential to Josh Allen's success? He has been since he got to Buffalo in 2020. They are better together, and if Stefon Diggs and Josh Allen stay together with the Buffalo Bills this year, the championship window is wide open. Someone responded, says, does Josh benefit from having a top-tier receiver? Yes. Is he essential to success? And he said no. And Stefon Diggs responded and said, you sure? Okay. And this was a couple days ago. Fast forward to 3 days later, and we're going to find out Stefon Diggs has been traded by the Buffalo Bills to the Houston Texans, and it's Stefon Diggs, a 6th and a 5th next year. The 6th is this year. The 5th is next year. For the Bills' 2025 second round. They get a second round pick from the Texans. And it's not even the Texans' 2025 second round pick. It's Minnesota's. So, I mean, they don't even get a pick to use this year.
Wow.
All right. Like when you, and flashback, remember what they gave up, right? What they gave up to get Diggs from Minnesota, right? Ironically. Like they gave up, and what's crazy is what? It was like middle of March. It was March 16th, right? And they gave up, the Bills got Stefon Diggs and a 7th round pick for a first rounder, which was a 22nd overall, a 5th rounder and a 6th rounder and a 4th rounder. So, ladies and gentlemen, and then we're going to add even a little bit more to this, okay? And then we're going to talk about this and really dive into this. And then check this, gentlemen. I don't know if you saw this. Not only all that, the Bills will carry about a $31.1 million dead cap hit for Diggs. Pretty much a disaster extension for them. Wound up paying an extra $20.9 million in 2022 and 2023 to come away with a net loss of more than a second rounder in the next year.
That hurt.
Okay, so let's talk about first things first before we get into the Miami Dolphins are favorites here. Richmond, you played in the game. You played the game at a high level. You've been involved in the business side at a high level. Does this tell you how badly they wanted just to move on from the situation if they were willing to take on a 31.1? I mean, that's more than a 10%. The cap is currently $255 million. That is more than a 10% cap hit to dead money just to get him out. Yeah. What does that say to you about where the Bills' relationship was with Stefon Diggs right now?
Well, like they say, when it's smoke, there's fire. And, for like you say, like 10% of your cap, that's a huge hit in 1 year. And I think we all seen it coming. Diggs is normally happy for whatever reason, kind of early in the season. And then when they get to the playoffs or right before the playoffs, if things don't go as planned or whatever, we saw him explode. Not last year, 2 years ago. I remember on the sideline, it was bad. And then even after that, I think he had tweeted a couple things and, they was trying to get in contact. So this thing has been going south for a while. And I think eventually sometimes, when it's that a player is that disgruntled or whatever, for whatever reason, I think he's a hell of a player. I can't take nothing from him. But when you're going to be a detriment to the team or to the atmosphere around the team, it must have been really, really bad. And that's what we know just from tweets publicly and just kind of what we know. We don't know what's all been said or behind the scenes and this and that. So, man, this thing had to be really bad for them to take that type of – that's a lot of dead money. I'm still stuck on that. And then the compensation they got based on what they gave up to get him and then what they're getting in return, it's not much. So, This is a tough. I wouldn't want to be the GM or whatever and have to go to the owner and say, well, this is what we got to do. We just gave this guy all this money, this and that. I think that's when it's a tough conversation, this and that. But it's not good at all. It's just, man, it's just, you hit me with so much so quick. I'm sitting here kind of like, like tripping. And I saw an interview earlier on Twitter where he was acting like he really wanted to be in Buffalo, but no, based on them making this type of move, something he's not being forthcoming or he don't want everybody to know what's going on. But yeah, for them to make this move like this just a couple of days later after a tweet or whatever, it had to be really, really bad in Buffalo. So yeah, it's bad.
What do you think about this, Martin? And I'll give you a twist on it, considering you played quarterback at FAMU. What's your twist on this? Because there was clear. I mean, you saw what I posted about the whole, Josh Allen relying on Diggs for success thing and his response. And we know there was, they were trying to cover it up a bit, but over the last year and a half, we've seen some tension growing between those two. What are your thoughts on this situation in terms of of the Buffalo Bills just willing to move off him and take that dead cap? But also, what does this say about their belief in Josh Allen to raise their young core of receivers, and B, which remember they got Stefon Diggs to turn him into what they think he is now, and then B, where does this tell you where their relationship was, receiver and quarterback, at this point in the trade?
And this is actually a very unique situation, and hopefully I'm not too long-winded with this, but this is clearly one of those situations.
Oh, bro, I was just teasing you earlier about the long-winded because I just wanted an answer on who wants more film, bro. You started giving me a life story, bro. I just wanted that's all. I was just joking.
But I
take your time. Say whatever you got to say, bro. Say whatever you got to say.
I'm big on the history of the NFL that ties into the reality of today. So what I
sat there and I was sitting there wondering how we went from talking about which unit watches the most film to the first black linebacker in the NFL, and I was sitting here like, I don't know how this one led into that one, but shout out to
Willie Lanier, man. Hey, but for real, man, Josh Allen has, in my opinion, a major role to play in this transition, because transition and transaction, because they lost Gabe Davis to the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? And if you can recall, for the last 2.5 years, 3 years, Josh Allen's go-to guy, every third down situation, gotta have it situation, red zone situation, it's Gabe Davis and Stefon Diggs. So for them to lose both of those guys in one offseason, it's major. It's major. And you have to say to yourself, okay, more than likely, this is a caveat of when Tom Brady got Randy Moss and he reached the apex of how you have to functionally be day by day, week by week, quarter by quarter of the season to be a top tier quarterback. I think Josh Allen has regurgitated everything that the Buffalo Bills needed to hear to say that they can move off of guys that are that impactful, like a Gabe Davis and a Stefon Diggs. So this is more so a Josh Allen move. They want him to have a fresh face, fresh faces in that wide receiver room, a la, not too similar, but Jordan Love, right? You look at the receivers that Jordan Love inherited. They were first year and second year wide receivers that knew little to nothing about what the residue of Aaron Rodgers. So when you talk about what Josh Allen is as a proverbial top 5 quarterback in the eyes of every NFL team, any new receiver coming into that locker room, they're going to look at Josh Allen and take on every word, every phrase, every play call that he says and take it as Bible and try to execute for him. And he's going to grow a new relationship with other guys. So I'm not too shocked that they moved off from Stefon Diggs, considering that Stefon Diggs was the catalyst. He was the fire starter, so to speak, for Josh Allen to get him into that mode to where he has to tell him, you are one of the best quarterbacks that he's ever seen, and then get him to that point where he can compete against a Tom Brady, against a Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, so on and so forth, and to have him in that state of mind. I think Josh Allen is secure in his state of mind, and he made a business decision, so to speak, and ultimately, man, Stefon Diggs going to the Texans. Side note, man, that's huge because the Texans are making major moves this offseason to let them know, like, hey, they're all in, man.
I got my
everything that they've been doing.
I got my Silver Prism CJ Stroud rookie card right here, baby, right here in the one touch. And
hold on to that, bro.
Cha-ching, cha-ching. That's what he keeps saying to me right now. Cha-ching, cha-ching. That's what he keeps saying.
Hold on to that, man. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Listen, I got a couple things to say off of what you were saying. Okay. Rejoice, Dolphin fans. Stefon Diggs was a Dolphin killer, and he's out of the division. Okay? And that's number one, all right?
Sure.
Number two, the Gabe Davis point you made. I made that as well on Twitter. I think not enough people are talking about when Diggs disappeared after those first 8 games and his targets went down, who started becoming Josh Allen's guy a little bit more. Gabe Davis at the end of the year there, right? So let's add into that. Does this show a huge belief in Dalton Kincaid to continue to develop and demand targets? That's another question you got to ask yourself. Okay. Now, everyone, obviously, we're going to sit here and we're going to say this. Okay. Are they going to sit there at 28 and stay pat? And they better not take my boy Xavier Legette out of South Carolina. But are they going to stay at 28 and are they going to take a receiver, or are they going to try to package some of this stuff and move up and try to get a Malik Neighbors or a Roma Dunze, or try to target Brian Thomas Jr.? I ask this because those are some more sureties, and their draft picks at wide receiver haven't really panned out the way they had hoped, i.e., I know me and you were kind of high on this kid coming out. He hasn't panned out to what we thought he might have been at the next level. Khalil Shakur kind of got lost in the shuffle in Buffalo and hasn't really developed into the guy we thought he might, the contributor we thought he might. Now, we didn't think he was going to be a far and away elite wide receiver 1, but we thought he'd be a bigger contributor at this level than what he's turned out to be. He hasn't really turned into that contributor yet. Do they have more of a belief in more snap targets going his way? There's a lot of questions that come with this because they haven't shown a great track record of drafting wide receivers over the last couple of years. Kincaid looks like their best receiving target hit over the last couple of years, and that's a tight end. What are they going to do? Just feature Dawson Knox and Kincaid with a sprinkle of, like, I think the Curtis Samuel move, everyone knows I praised it when they made it. I think that was a great move. I think that, I wanted him in Miami. I thought he would have been fantastic as our wide receiver 3. But Curtis Samuel's your wide receiver 1 as it stands right now. Like, I don't know about that, ladies and gentlemen. Right. You know what I mean? Right. So, I see some issues coming from this, and I got to ask you guys this now. I say all that to say this, and we'll start with you, Richmond. Are the Miami Dolphins the AFC East favorites right now? Vegas last year heading into the season with Wilkins and all those guys projected us at 9.5 wins. This year, without Wilkins, without Xavier Howard, without Andrew Van Ginkel, et cetera, we're projected by Vegas for 10.5 wins. Our win totals increased by 1, regardless of who's been deducted off the roster right now. You look at them. Listen, they lost Jordan Poyer. Was he the same guy as he was 3 years ago? No, but he's going to have a chip on his shoulder and he's going to be out something to prove. Their defense has taken a couple hits over the last 2 years in terms of losing players. Now they're starting to lose and offload weapons. Our receiving room is better than them. Our running back room is better than them. What's starting to, I could say our defense is probably better than theirs right now. Do you consider us the AFC East favorites heading into the season? Because I'll tell you this much, Richmond. If we end up at the back half of that season in that 4-game stretch and we got a multi-game lead on them, this team, it feels like, will close that one out compared to last year. What are your thoughts on this? Are they the AFC East favorites? Because Richmond, you played with Marino. I'm not buying the Jets hype. I mean, you saw Marino come off an Achilles injury. Okay, Marino was 31 when he came off that Achilles injury with you guys, Richmond. Aaron Rodgers is 40 years old. You can be the first to admit, Richmond, Marino wasn't the same guy after the Achilles that he was before the Achilles. Now, I'm not saying he fell off a cliff, but he wasn't the same guy, and he was 10 years younger. What are your thoughts? Are we the AFC's favorites?
Based on predictions, we should probably be, like you said, Aaron Rodgers, he's 40, 41. With Josh Allen losing Diggs and Davis, I mean, I think Martin brought up a great point. And I remember, I think the thing with any quarterback, and Martin can speak on this more than anyone, in clutch situations, it's certain guys you trust more than others. And I definitely know he trusted Davis. And he definitely trusted Diggs. So to lose both of those, like you said, Kincaid is a tight end. The only thing that makes sense for me for the Bills is based on them having that much dead cap money hit like it's hitting them, is to either try to move up in the draft to even though they hadn't had success, the thing makes sense to try to move up to try to get a receiver, because you got to give Josh Allen some weapons, and you need more than just a tight end to try to distribute the football. So that's what I think. But to answer your question, I think based on that predictions, everything, the Dolphins will definitely should be the AFC East favorite to win the division based on all that's going on, because this is huge. I didn't even think about it till Martin said something about Davis. I'm like, man, you lose two clutch receivers. That's huge. And you're right. And they've been losing people on defense, and Frazier retired, the D coordinator. So the building is slowly kind of crumbling up there in Buffalo, and I don't see them. I don't see the pieces getting put back. You got to put some new bricks up, but that mortar takes a little time to set sometimes. So I don't know what old Martin doing. Martin doing something now. Yeah. So,
No. Hey, Richard, I'm laughing because I heard Reeves. He said, "Yeah, man, that thing breaking down a little bit." And Reeves like, "I love it."
Beautiful.
Look. And Richard brought up a whole bunch of serious points. We have Ryan Poyer. They removed Tre'Davious White from the equation. Tremaine Edmonds went to Chicago last year. There's a lot of things happening all across the board, offensively and defensively. We took their special teams ace, Teron Neal. He's on our side now. So there's a lot of things happening. But I will say this: when it comes to how the Buffalo Bills are viewing this situation, I wouldn't be surprised if they are trying to, just thrust Josh Allen into the category of Tom Brady. And remember, going back to what I said a little bit earlier, when Tom Brady had Randy Moss, he literally went to an accelerated program of how to be an upper echelon quarterback, because prior to 2007, Tom Brady was just a guy that won Super Bowls based off of a great defense and a great head coach. But he managed the game extremely well to win when it really mattered. And in Josh Allen's case, when you lose guys like a Stefon Diggs and a Gabe Davis, I'm curious as if they're going to transition into how Tom Brady transitioned after Randy Moss to Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski with a 2 tight end system, and guys on the outside that just make plays in crucial situations like Julian Edelman, Chris Hogan, guys like that, where all you do is rely on that middle of the field. And Josh Allen has the arm enough to really take advantage of what's going on in the middle of the field. It's just about decision making. So Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox, I'm curious as if the coordinator, and I think Joe Brady is still the coordinator, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
He is.
So I don't know if they're trying to transition into that Tom Brady dual tight end focused offense where you have Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, and those are the 2 primary guys. And the outside, like Shakir and someone else, they might get like for instance, Curtis Samuel or even somebody else in the draft, where they have a receiver set where they just need to make plays, one-on-one on the outside and take advantage
Yeah.
of what's going on the inside. So it seems like they're transitioning into that. But regardless, it's going to be interesting to see how Josh Allen kind of reacts to the situation because he's losing two major pieces of what makes him tick. So,
Yeah.
you know, I want to see how it works out, man.
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think he's that pissed because, you know, we look at this. Tua wouldn't be happy if they traded Waddle or Tyreek. I think they must have went to Josh Allen and said, here's the deal. And Josh, I bet I can almost pretty much guarantee you Josh Allen gave them the thumbs up. I can honestly really almost pretty much guarantee that because I don't think they would have hindered him or hampered him without his approval. They wouldn't have just done that to him. You know what I mean? Their franchise quarterback, you wouldn't do that. And that just further tells me of where they're at, you know, with and you know, Richmond made a good point. And this is the whole deal. Here's the first play. The first play is you draft a guy because you got all that dead money and you want a guy playing on a cheap contract. Okay, that's cool. But the second play is they got about, I think after this trade, they have just over like $4 million in cap space. What if they structure the contract in a way it doesn't hurt them this year and starts hitting in next year, whatever? What if they make a play for Brandon Ayuk or they make a play for T. Higgins?
Wow. Jesus.
They got to do something.
Well, what have we seen over the last couple of years at drafts? Where was A.J. Brown traded at the draft? What did they turn around and do? They drafted Treylon Burks, right? In that same draft, who else was traded? Who else was traded from Baltimore to Arizona? Hollywood Brown, right? Hollywood Brown got traded. Draft day trades of wide receivers has turned into a thing the last couple of years. What if they're sitting at 28? It's too expensive to move up for them. They're like, hell, we want to hold on to our picks for the rest of this draft and for next year. We want to hold on as many as possible. Okay, let's package some of these lesser picks together and maybe the 28 and just go get Brandon Ayuk or go get T. Higgins.
Why would you put that into the ethos, man? Damn, that sounds exactly like something the Bills would do, man.
I think one guy would work, and I think one guy wouldn't work. And I'm gonna explain. I don't know if T. Higgins is a true number one. I think Ayuk could be that true number one.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
I would be more worried if they got Ayuk than if they got T. Higgins. If they got T. Higgins, I'd be like, yeah, we're okay. If they got Ayuk, I'd be okay. That's more of a problem. More of a problem. So
that's a great point. And to be honest, when you look at the two options, right? Let's talk about it real quick. The Buffalo Bills have the 28th overall pick, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they do.
So let's say, for instance, who's going to fall to 20?
They have the 28th pick, the 60th pick, the 128, 133, 144, 160, 163, 200, 204, and 248. And then next year they have a first, 2 seconds, their own in the Vikings, a third, a fourth, and 2 6. So they got ammo. They got ammo.
Yeah, they do. And trust me when I say the San Francisco 49ers, they're not embarrassed, so to speak, but they are to the point where they want to run it back. They want another opportunity at a ring.
Like Ayuk don't care about that. Ayuk cares about being the number one guy.
Ayuk cares about being paid what he has earned. But at the same time, he would love to stay in San Francisco if they pay him accordingly. It seems like they're not necessarily in the mix of doing that for Ayuk as opposed to them just trying to compile a team together, especially defensively, to make sure that they can still compete in a very loaded NFC conference. So again, if they go and get like Buffalo Bills, right? If they put a package together for the 49ers and John Lynch, man, we don't give him enough credit as the GM, bro. He knows what the hell he's doing. If he goes ahead.
I just got to say this. Sorry, say this. Look at the Ozzie Newsome and John Lynch, former safeties, and look at how former cerebral safeties, and look at how they've turned out as head of football operations, basically. Absolute geniuses. Anyways,
right. Right, man. No, you're right, man. And trust me when I say the situation with Ayuk in particular, when the Buffalo Bills are looking at the draft board, and there's certain guys that you want to select in the first round, the Buffalo Bills are crossing their fingers way harder than the Miami Dolphins are crossing their fingers as to who's going to fall in their lap in the first round. So when it comes to sure bets, like a Brandon Ayuk, who is he wins his route. He's a great blocker. He's about the process. He's about the business. I think they would no different than getting when they went to get Stefon Diggs from the Minnesota Vikings. I think they're going to put everything together to make sure that they acquire that type of pick. And I'm not frustrated that you put that into the ethos, but it's hard for me because when you say things like that, I have to elaborate. I can't avoid not elaborating on what you just put out there, man. Because it's true. It's true, man. If the Buffalo Bills see what's going on and they're reading the signs of other, players on other teams and draft prospects and who's going to be available after the draft, like Odell Beckham, so on and so forth, man, there's certain things in play for them where they say, hey, man, let's move on from a guy like Stefon Diggs and let's see how
they need a true
out.
one. Like Odell Beckham Jr. and Tyler Boyd aren't good enough for what they need right now.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So trust me when I say, man, a Brandon Ayuk traded to a Buffalo Bills is the worst thing that can happen to the AFC East because Brandon Ayuk played in the NFC West, right? The Cardinals, the Seahawks and the Rams, right? Yeah. Those are well-oiled machines. Outside of the Cardinals, who, whether we like to admit it or not, they had a really good season outside of the actual, record. They were competing every single game, bro. Offense and defense. They got a good team together. And I like what Gannon is putting together over there in Arizona. But trust me, he came from that division. If he comes to the AFC East, man, he's gonna look at us like, new kid on the block, and he's gonna start munching, man. He's gonna take people's lunch, bro. He's gonna, you know what I mean? He's gonna do some damage, bro. So I hope the Buffalo Bills do not make that type of move to recover from what they're missing in a Gabe Davis and a Stefon Diggs, because again, as good Josh Allen has been, I think it's going to take, a while for him to kind of massage himself into a reality of what it really means to be the number one quarterback in the NFL, a la Tom Brady. So they're looking at him as Tom Brady, but we'll see how this thing kind of plays out ultimately.
So speaking of who's the favorite, The Athletic just dropped an article about NFL executives unfiltered on the 2024 free agency class, the best and worst from all 22 teams. And what they said about Miami was kind of interesting. I'll read it here for you guys and show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. This is behind a paywall for The Athletic. So shout out to all y'all for getting it for free. So it talks about they added about $48.2 million. They lost about $84 million. That's how much money was handed out to the free agencies. Don't tell me Greer can't draft, ladies and gentlemen. AP, the average per year differential, about $35.8 million was paid by other teams more than they were willing to pay their free agency class. So that tells you. Anyways, what it says here is, has the Dolphins roster peaked with a run of 4 consecutive winning seasons without even one playoff victory? You can make the case they have exhausted the model even before paying the quarterback, an executive said. The thought came to mind as Miami watched a league high 6 players leave its roster for deals worth at least $6 million per year. Wilkins, Robert Hunt, Van Ginkel, Jerome Baker, Raekwon Davis, and Brandon Jones. The team also released 4-time Pro Bowl cornerback Xavier Howard, who remains a free agent. I think they got in trouble just acquiring people, thinking last year was going to be a bigger year for them than it wound up being, another NFL executive said. The 8 players leaving the Dolphins for other teams were younger on average, 27.5, than the 13 players they signed from the outside, which is an average about 28.4 years, 9th oldest. Quote, what is interesting about them is the players they lost were homegrown drafted players, which is not how you want things to go, another NFL executive said. You want to extend your own, but they are on their third defensive coordinator in 3 years, and that changes how players are viewed. Van Ginkel was probably the one that hurt the most after Wilkins, and then think of all the surplus value Wilkins got from not being tagged. So we'll start with you on this one, Martin. What are your thoughts when you hear that main line right there? Do you think the Miami Dolphins basically had exhausted the model without paying the quarterback yet, without a playoff victory? Would you agree with that statement?
It's difficult to agree with a situation exhausted. You know what I mean? Only because what have we really spent in free agency, right? There's a level of overpaying. There's a level of underpaying, and there's a level of we stole something in free agency. But what I can clearly see is that we've made sound decisions. We haven't gotten worse, but it's not necessarily that we've gotten exponentially better. It's all based off of what we're going to see when the pads are on and when the whistle is blown and the plays count. So again, at the end of the day, am I sure what's actually what is for the Miami Dolphins? No, not yet. We're still in a very challenging conference. As much as we've made moves, other teams have made moves, including the Raiders. Hence, taking Christian Wilkins. Other teams as well. The Bengals, the Jets, what's these guys in the AFC North? The Pittsburgh Steelers. The Jaguars, Texans. In my opinion, bro, the Texans are the team to beat in the AFC. Bottom line, everything that they've done. And what they're bringing back in the rookie class that they had from last year to come into the second year, we're in a position where we're not sure what we actually have until we see what we see when the bullets actually start flying. So we're not. I'm not too concerned as far as the opinion of exhaustion because we don't know what's going to happen based off of who we lost and who we've acquired.
I get the point of not getting a playoff win, but it kind of feels like the Bills have exhausted their options a little bit more as they're starting to break everything down, like from Diggs to losing players to it seems like they've exhausted their options without getting a championship, and they're getting more towards that end of the line of having to do a soft reset or soft rebuild than we are right now. That's at least how it feels. Richmond, what would you say?
When you say exhaustion, you're talking about the Super Bowl window?
Well, that's what they're saying, right? If you look at the question, what they said, you can make the case that they have exhausted the model even before paying the quarterback, right? Because they're asking, has the roster peaked? That's what I'm saying, and it feels like that's more of the case for Buffalo because are they going to find? Listen, they could go draft Rome Odunze or Malik Neighbors. Is that a proven commodity like what Stefon Diggs is at the NFL level?
That's right.
It feels like the Bills roster peaked before us and they've exhausted the model. Now I get it. We didn't win a playoff game and they won a couple. But at the same point, it seems like, their roster peaked and they're starting a soft reset and rebuild and we're not there yet. That's what it feels like for me.
That's a great point. Yeah.
So what would you say about that, Richmond? What do you think? Do you think this roster is peaked? Where do you sit with that?
No, I think it's an opinion piece. I think, like the guy said, I think it was based on the players we lost and the average age of the players we lost. And I think the window. I don't think the window's closed. And like I say, people are paid to write opinions. Analysts, I listen to it, but it's nothing that was just etched in stone and say, well, man, that's something really I should really hang my hat on, and I didn't get that from that article. And yeah, we lost some players, but I think we upgraded in some areas as well with the other players we got, regardless of age, this and that. A year or two, maybe it makes a difference, maybe it doesn't. But everybody's gonna have their opinion, and sometimes for me, and it might just be me personally, I listen to some of these takes, and it seems like, man, sometimes they be hard on the Dolphins. I'd be like, I wouldn't do we.
They gotta be, man.
A bad taste in somebody's mouth or whatever, but I'm like, they'd be like super critical, like we're up under a microscope, every little thing we do. So I listen to it. I respect, hey, you write your articles, you give your opinion, I listen to it, but I don't necessarily have to agree with it. So, I definitely don't think we still got a lot of young players, and we, like I say, the moves we made, I think we're fine. I don't think we're exhausted where we got to say, hey, we've got to break this thing down. We've overpaid everybody, and we got to break it down and start over. We're definitely not at that. So, I hear you, but I don't hear you. So that's how I take it. Yeah.
Shout out to Hammer. He says, we are winning the AFC East. Let's go. It's time. What's up, big dogs? And then he says, how stacks are the Texans becoming? For sure, but I want everyone to pump the brakes a little bit. There's a reason why the term sophomore slump exists. Everyone needs to relax a second here. Let's let this play out, because there's a reason why that term exists. I'm just saying, all right? So anything can happen. Continuing on here, we're not talking about The Undertaker with WrestleMania coming up. We're talking about Kendall Lamm and what he said. And he said this when he signed with the Dolphins today.
I've seen and watched a lot of videos of people signing their contracts not in Miami. That always fits them. I'm a very simple man. I watched them go out on the beautiful, deck out there and say, Miami Dolphins, welcome, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm here in Charlotte, North Carolina. This will be signed, sealed, delivered back to Miami. And I get to step out on my beautiful back porch with a beautiful, beautiful weather, beautiful flowers, beautiful trees. I'm a simple man, so I can tell you I'm very, very appreciative of this. This will be the last ride for me, so to play in Miami and play with good people, good organization, great fans. It's amazing to me to close this football chapter the right way. So, Miami Dolphins, thank you so much. Blessed, excited for year 10. Let's close this the right way.
So there you go. Kendall Lamm basically at the end there saying this is the last ride. I'm excited. Year 10, let's go. We've signed our swing tackle. This basically puts Driscoll in that battle at right guard with Liam Eichenberg. Your thoughts on Kendall Lamm, Richmond, as a former tackle yourself? He's played admirably when he's had to fill in for Teron Armstead. He's turned into a fantastic swing tackle the last couple of years for us. What are your thoughts on one last ride with this trench warrior?
Yeah, I think he just made a decision, and even probably before this previous year, I think he just set a goal of maybe playing 10 years in the NFL. I don't think I hadn't looked at his injury history or anything, but it seems like he figured if I can get 10 years in with the type of money they're paying now, this and that. And the thing I kept focusing on, he kept saying, I'm a simple man, this and that. And it's definitely a lot cheaper to live in Charlotte than it is Miami. So he said, I'm stacking my coins, and hey, I'm gonna ride out in the sunset. I appreciate everything, but I'm gonna give it one more ride. And then a lot of times guys say that, and then he might reevaluate after next year and say, okay, I think I might want to go one more year. But right now he's saying, if I get this 10th year in, I'm good. I move back to Charlotte and I'm chilling. So hey, I love to see when players are planning for the end before the end comes, and they hadn't planned for the end. So he's ahead of the game. Sound like he's got everything in check, and I'm happy for the young man. And I'm glad, like you say, to be a swing tackle, to be able to go back and forth and fill in and give us quality time in the event. Like you say, Armstead went down for a little bit. That's huge. And so I'm happy for him. But yeah, it's a good thing he decided to come back for another year. I think it definitely helps us.
What are your thoughts on this, Martin, this last ride of Kendall Lamm?
Yeah, I respect it. I think he understands that he is a role player, and I think that's what a lot of NFL players don't necessarily grasp onto initially. It's no different than, like, for instance, when I was at FAMU, I didn't come in with the idea of that I'm going to be the starter as true freshmen. There was a program in place when it comes to guys that are transferring in, guys that have been there before me, and what my role is on the team for any specific year. So when it comes to the actual NFL, when it's a business decision and it's time for you to, make decisions on your own on behalf of the business, I think Kendall Lamm really, weighed and balanced everything, even options outside of the Miami Dolphins, and came to the conclusion like, you know what, I did extremely well last year as a fill-in for Teron Armstead, who was in and out of the lineup based off of injuries and what have you. And I think he sees the same situation kind of mirroring itself from this year as well. As far as Teron Armstead is concerned, this might be his last ride as well. He's not saying it publicly, but I think this might be the same situation with him. And I think he's kind of tied to the hip with that left tackle position and what his role is on this team. So he's content, and he's pretty much he's fulfilled as a professional athlete, as a professional period, and he's fulfilled with his career. So I respect it 100%. And honestly, it seems like he wants to, put it out there that this is his last ride, almost like Ray Lewis. I'm not calling Kendall Lamm Ray Lewis, people. But when Ray Lewis pretty much declared during the playoffs in 2012, hey, fellas, this is my last ride.
Oh, you're going to say that they're all going to rally around for Lamb and try to win the Super Bowl for Lamb?
I'm not saying that, man. But what I'm saying is it is a different atmosphere altogether when you know that there is one guy in that locker room that this is his last ride. This is his last off season. This is his last, numerically, because you remember Hard Knocks. Mike McDaniel was big on numbers and days and how much time we have left. Kendall Lamm's career is going to encompass, I believe, this Dolphins season as to how much he has left and how much we have left for this season. And trust me, man, if you rally behind, the countdown, the final countdown, one of my favorite songs, bro. The final countdown. Yeah. When you have that as a mantra and as a war cry, you start triggering certain things that you necessarily didn't even know you had access to as far as capabilities. So all I'm saying is we could use this, and obviously Teron Armstead is in the background. I think we're looking at certain things as far as players and their careers and them ready to retire. This might be one of those situations where, man, I'm glad he put that out there into the atmosphere and saying, guys, this is my last ride. Let's make it a good one. And no matter what happens, man, I really want to see Kendall Lamm kind of be content with whatever result is going to be with the Miami Dolphins, man, because he's been a pro's pro, from the beginning since he's been with the Miami Dolphins. So I respect it 100%.
Can't wait for someone to meme his face on Ray Lewis's body for the last ride. I want everyone to remember this Friday. The Dolphins are gonna have their local pro day, and then they're gonna be hosting Miami Hurricanes players, team headquarters for the on-field editions on Friday and private dinners on Thursday. So guys like Cameron Kitchens will be involved. Obviously, so like Leonard Taylor, James Williams, Matt Lee, Javion Cohen, so a couple interior guys. It's rumored the Dolphins are interested in Leonard Taylor. You know what I mean? Another thing too, guys, I want y'all to remember, because remember, about 24 non-University of Miami players are also going to audition for the Dolphins on Friday as part of their annual local pro day. Because remember, NFL teams are permitted to work out players who attended high school or college in their geographic areas without them counting against the 30 permitted pre-draft visits. And amongst the people that will be working out, ladies and gentlemen, Southern Mississippi running back Frank Gore Jr., who's the son of obviously Frank Gore, So he will be working out from that'll be interesting. You know, they'll have a bunch of people like Akeem Dent from SFU, the safety will be there. You know, they're gonna have some decent players out. So and another one who I liked, who made my top 10 defensive tackle line big board, Brandon Dorless from Oregon, because he's from Deerfield Beach High. He will be there as well. So there are going to be some interesting names. Guys, we got over 930 of you in the room right now between YouTube and between Twitter. We appreciate you. We have over 400 of y'all on each platform watching live right now. I want to apologize to not only Martin, but also Richmond Webb, because Florida A&M and Texas A&M, I don't know why I had a brain fart and said Atlantic when they both share the agricultural and mechanical in their A&Ms. I don't know why I had the brain fart. I just did. You know, you didn't go to FAU. You didn't go to FAU. You went to FAMU. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
so that was my bad. That was my bad earlier on that little slip up, bro.
Nah,
I'm so worn. I said I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. I was talking to Dougley yesterday, and I said to him, I said, I don't know what it is, but I'm more worn out during this draft cycle than I have been the past couple of years. So I don't know, and I'm only halfway through my big board, so tells you where I'm at right now. You know,
no.
So let's get. Oh, buddy, you know, May 11th, Punta Cana, Dominican can't get here fast enough.
Don Rep in the house. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, Don Juan, baby. I was gonna make a Punta Cana joke, but we'll save that for backstage. So you guys got any final thoughts? Anything to add?
No, I don't have anything to add. I thought you brought up some great points. I thought Martin as well. I definitely appreciate him coming on, stepping in for ball game. I'm not gonna hold it against him. He didn't bring Gina with him this time, but you know, maybe he'll let her come next time. But he's still my favorite.
I need Gina.
So, we need Gina, brother. We need Gina.
I need Gina, man. I need Gina in my life, man. Baby.
Save that for the backstage too, Martin.
Yeah, man.
Any final thoughts for you, Martin?
Nah, man. Bro. We really lucked up with Stefon Diggs being as disgruntled as he's always been.
You know,
and being very vocal about him being one of the best. You know who Stefon Diggs reminds me of? He reminds me of Chad Johnson, but he's not as playful. You know what I mean? Because Chad Johnson was very serious about being the best receiver in NFL history, but he was playful with it with Marvin Lewis, right? But Stefon Diggs reminds me of a Chad Johnson where he's serious about being one of the best receivers to have ever graced an NFL field, but he's not playful at all, man. He's dead serious, man. So that might just rub people the wrong way when it comes to how apprehensive he is about. Listen, Josh, I love you, but man, we got to win this game against the Chiefs. And every time, bro, they falling short. He's like, all right, bro, I'm tired of this.
Yeah.
So look, I'm telling you right now, man. We're as far as the Miami Dolphins, we're in a fortunate division. And we're in a fortunate situation where there's not too much craziness happening, man, in the AFC East. You look all the way around from the AFC North to the AFC South to the AFC West. A lot of crazy things are happening. But at the same time, I'm still, grateful that the Miami Dolphins, man, they're playing it steady. They're not loud about anything that they're doing. And they're very serious about, if not having the same caliber of team from last year, to having a better type of team this year. And man, Chris Greer and Miami Daniel, I'm all for what's about to happen. So
I'll be honest with you. This offseason has felt like we've moved like a legit contender. We haven't overreacted. You know what I mean? We haven't made any rash decisions. We've been smart with our money. And this team, sure, they lost to Christian Wilkins, but look at how much they're like, okay, we're going to lose a run defender like that. We still got Sealer. We'll get a bunch of rotational pieces in there. Benito Jones for Raekwon's kind of a wash. And then they said, okay, if we're gonna have a void up front, we gotta tighten up the second level. And that's exactly what they did. So they've just been smart in other ways, and hopefully they can get 2 extended. Hopefully they can get a couple of that. They're at least going to activate the 50-year option of Waddle and Phillips, and then hopefully they can get something done with Holland so we don't end up in the same position we are in with Wilkins. So also represented by Athletes First. So be on the lookout for that. But listen, I appreciate each and every one of you for coming through. Remember, there's no Fin Too Deep tomorrow, as Neil and his family have made the trip to Philadelphia for WrestleMania. So Fin Too Deep will be back next week. Finish Line will be back next week. No ball game. Next week will be ball games. Last week off, as he's growing the latest track stars from South Florida. So please do us a favor. Smash the like button. Subscribe if you're new. Appreciate all y'all spending some of your night with us. And we will catch each and every one of you on the next one. Fins up, everyone. Take it easy.
Peace. Yes, sir.